Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So Candace Owens has a new book coming out soon, and she's calling it Make Him a Sandwich. Okay? Now, she's parroting another feminist, and so I get how she wants to be the opposite contrarian, but I thought I would bring up a side angle that some people don't analyze, and that is that Candace Owens is very modern, okay? Now, she also married somebody who was prominent. He's wealthy. He's not a pauper. He's not a construction worker, okay? And cooking is more than sandwiches. I would argue personally that sandwiches are a lazy form of making food. Now, if you're making your own bread, or you're using a demi-baguette, a ciabatta roll, sourdough, something like a really good quality bread that you got, a sourdough batard, something like that, then I would be like, wow, or focaccia bread, something, that you got from a very particular artisan rustic bakery, and you're using delicatessen, like they call it delicatessen ingredients, Dijon whole grain mustard, you're using a great quality mayo, you're using brie, I get it, okay, arugula, but if it's just like Kraft singles and bologna on Wonder Bread with some Miracle Whip, that's not really the same now, is it? Now, the make a sandwich phenomenon is something that men use to troll women. Like, there was one post where a woman, she had like a black eye, and it said, next time make the sandwich. So men really like to use the make a sandwich as something derogatory. And it reminds me of, if you go on social media, and you look up, use keywords, white boy lunch versus Latino boy lunch, you'll see construction workers where the white men have a pretty crappy sandwich, to be honest, something that not even a good deli would serve, that their wife made or that they made, and you compare that to like the really good looking food some of the Mexicans show up with that their wives made, okay, you can see, or their sisters, mother-in-law, you name it, but their food is quite different. And so doing a sandwich is the bare bones minimum of what you can do. And I make entrees, desserts, appetizers, tons of different things, okay? The more ornate you get, that's the better. And what is her intention here? Could she be saying, hey, make him a sandwich? Is she trying to inspire you to cook? Because if you want to inspire women to cook, there's better ways to do it. And I, on my channel, have tons of like clips of things that I make, and I am a self-made chef. I worked in the culinary art, and I've been a stay-at-home mom for 4 years now. But before that, I was in the restaurant industry for much of my life. That was my number one thing, of different cuisines. And I have countless cookbooks of different cultures and time periods. I have a lot of vintage cookbooks that I really enjoy. And I'm always trying to expand my horizon, alright? So, I don't try to say, make the sandwich. I try to say, hey, look, this is really easy. Why don't you try it? Maybe you'll like it too. I have, on my playlists, lots of cooking motivation material. And especially on my Instagram. And on my profile, Nikabi Bear, on the Bertaria Times app, over 1,000 posts. Okay? So, I know that when it comes to cooking, if you want to motivate a woman to try, you need to be positive. And I personally think Anthony Bourdain and Gordon Ramsay, their snarkiness, rudeness, and pretentious nature have made people afraid of cooking, make them feel inferior, and shows like Iron Chef, they're bombastic, useless, rushing. It's not really great skill. It's fine dining chefs. It's a lot of pompousness there when you get down to the nitty gritty. Small portions, overpriced, with just weird ingredients. It's just not that great. And rich people, they just sometimes pay more just to pay more, I'd argue. And so, if you want to motivate someone to cook, you don't use these fancy chefs, but you get down to the old school traditions of different cultures, and you humanize yourself, and you keep trying to become better and better. That doesn't mean you do dirty street food. I'm not saying street food is dirty, but I'm sure you've seen videos where someone was being just violating every health code known to man, right? Or not using any common sense. Then you have a problem. Then you're not going to have the best nutrition and whatnot. But you can make women feel motivated to cook. And I always tell women, go to the old school cookbooks where you get more recipes for your buck. Because these new ones, they have nice hard covers, beautiful pictures, but the recipes are lacking and they take up a lot of space. Whereas the Amish cookbooks, the Mennonite cookbooks, they have tons of recipes, 0 pictures, and you're getting a thick stack for $12 versus $45 for a thick, hard-grained book. Like a hardcover, right? And so, there's also ways where women who... I say you learn a lot more from male chefs online than female chefs, because a lot of the female chefs just focus the camera on their chests, and they wear ball gowns that are really low, or mini skirts. It's just that's a form of adult entertainment, in my opinion. It's not really about education, and you're not really going to learn a whole lot, because that's not what the woman's trying to do. She's not trying to motivate you to cook. She's trying to get simps to donate to her or go to her OnlyFans, right? And I also wanted to point out that Candace Owens is a career woman who's wealthy, and she married a wealthy man, and she hides a lot of her daily life. And if you are breastfeeding your children, you realize, you know, how fast the day goes. Nursing them every 2 hours, 3 hours, the poopy diapers, the burp up. She's able to be a modern woman. Sure, she has that giant cross in her videos and whatnot. And she says she goes to Latin Mass. But you have to remember, she has wealth. She has time to sit down and talk to morons like Kanye. She has a team of people working for her. She did Blexit. She was able to tour. If you are full-time with your kids, you can't be touring like that. You can't have nannies and maids and all that jazz. And I've noticed Candace has never shown behind-the-scenes cooking vlogs. And so I'd be very cautious. She mocked Meghan Markle. Is that her name? I forgot. Yeah, Meghan. Prince Harry's wife. For starting a Netflix show where she was kind of doing cooking, which I might check it out. I can't remember if it's released yet. I wrote down the date, but I haven't checked Netflix. But I kind of liked that someone was getting their hands dirty. It would have still been cool, though, if she would have showed how they eat in the palace. In Buckingham Palace or wherever she wanted to live. That would have been cool, too. Because I don't mind seeing different levels of society and how they eat. Now, just like I used to watch Bizarre Foods when I was a kid, Andrew Zimmer, that chef, would go and eat bugs. You know, bull testicles, goat brains. You know, he would eat all kinds of weird things. And so, I like seeing what different people eat, because you can connect to people through food. So, I thought it was funny that Candace was mocking her for showing the cooking side, when Candace says, from my knowledge, I don't see her really doing much. You know? So this leads me to believe that Candace and her husband, they get to go out, have their, like, her and her husband just to get to go out, while a nanny or a relative watches their kids. And Candace has the budget to just have a private chef, to eat from the best restaurants 3-4 times a day, every day. You know? she doesn't have to have that pressure in her mind of, okay, I got a bag of beans, I got some bell peppers, some chicken stock. Like, I gotta make this, I gotta get all these ingredients and stretch this meal. You know, she's not making tamales. You see what I'm trying to say? Not making dumplings by hand. Or pasta. Making gnocchi, ravioli, tortellini. What is going on here? So I just thought that was very convenient of Candace to kind of have a title like that. And how is she really against feminism when she has a sort of very modern boss babe life? Career, social media, traveling, wealth. She's able to focus every day on her show, which, you know, as soon as she gives birth, she takes a little bit of time off, then she's back to the grind. So who's watching her kid? She always looks well rested. So does she have a night nurse? Because a lot of moms, they get seriously sleep deprived. So does she have help? Why hasn't she disclosed that? I'd argue the more help you have taking care of your kids, some could argue that you're quite modern feminist, because feminists do want to have a maid, a chef, a nanny. They want to have as much help as possible and to delegate their tasks off. This is a very modern phenomenon, because the trad way was, you know, maybe you have your grandparents help, an older sibling help, but you were the main protector, guardian of your child, you know. So it's convenient that Candace has cut out that part of her life. What she cooks, what her schedule is, how often she goes out to eat, how many hired help people does she have, you know, is she cooking for her husband every night? You know, there's more to feminism than I hate men. Because I think I've gotten really good at studying the different sects of feminism and really understanding their personalities, what they want, what they preach. And you have like the goth feminists, the nihilistic ones who are just very pessimistic, the doomsdayers. But the gold diggers, they're the ones who, you know, they want everything paid for. They want to be belle of the ball, Beauty and the Beast. You know, be our guest type of phenomenon. And I feel from what Candace has shown us that she falls into this category. Now, if I had wealth, would I mind having someone make me sushi once a week? Probably not, right? But cooking is part of my personality, so I'm a bit biased. Because I like cooking and I'm very particular on who touches my food, where it's coming from. You know, I have that personality. I like a lot of control over what I'm going to eat. Okay, I worked in the restaurant industry, so let's just say when it's like a mortician deals with human bodies a lot, looks at we're just these chunks of meat, and they become a vegetarian. You know what I mean? Like, as you look at a rump roast in the walk-in, and you're like, that looks kind of like a human thigh. You know, a slab of pork, where you don't eat pork, but you're getting like, I'm gonna eat some kale. You know? You see what I mean? You know, now there's slaughterhouse workers, which they're still gonna eat a nice ribeye. Still gonna light up that barbecue on the weekend. But sometimes you can work in a particular field and your appetites change, you know? So I would be very curious to just really know what Candace does and how much does she pay for, because also the energy levels. To do what she does, you need a lot of energy. I go to bed tired every day. You know, it's rough. And taking care of when your kid's under 5, they're just really rambunctious. They're getting into stuff. So while she's doing her show, you know, how is this all working? Answering emails, delegating paychecks, It's quite a lot. Does she have a secretary? Does she have a private assistant? We should know these things. Okay? Because not being a feminist, are you trying to set yourself up as trad? A trad Christian influencer? I recall that someone once pointed out that Ali Buckley, Lauren Chen, even though Lauren Chen got canceled for taking money from Russia, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, Tommy Lauren, these are influencers who put career before homemaking. And so the modern Christian woman is a working woman, is a very forward frontliner. So what are we looking at here? Now, if that works for her, that works for her. You know, she probably has great health insurance. But I would just caution how you frame cooking for your family. Because the younger generations, they view cooking in a very negative light. And many of them have not grown up with moms who like to cook. Now, my grandma didn't cook for me. My mom didn't cook for me. They had zero skills in cooking. My grandpa did most of the cooking. My dad cooked more than my stepmoms. Neither one of my stepmoms could cook. I was surrounded by women who were just rather eat out than make something. And when they did make you something, it wasn't very good. But then there was Mormons around, and my Latino parent, like my Latino friends' parents from Mexico, and they were staying at home hooking it up in the kitchen. And that was cool because that would be very inspiring. And I would eat at their houses, which was really important because I was fed banquet frozen TV dinners, hamburger helper. I had to have a job and buy my own food. You know, I had to really struggle because food was not a priority in the family for so long. No one really valued it or respected it. And so I'm quite familiar with how you can approach someone to get them interested in cooking. There is a lot of YouTube channels where people make cooking sound overly complicated and snobbish. But the better you get at cooking, the easier it gets, and the more concise you get in your language. Now you can be very niche, peculiar, eccentric, enthusiastic about a particular herb or methodology, you name it. But you don't want to be so pretentious, so snarky, that you push women away from food because food is medicine, right? And the whole make a sandwich phenomenon just pisses off feminists. And if your goal is just to piss off the feminists, you're not really going to change hearts, is it? I had a live stream once called, was it Convince the Feminists? Convert the Feminists? I forgot. But it was Persuade the Feminists, something like that. You'll see it in the live streams. But you really got to work on these women because they're almost like these trauma victims in a weird way. They had a really bad breakup. Their mom was a cunt. You know, there's something really, really wrong with them. They're very damaged individuals mentally and spiritually. And you got to almost do like a therapy exorcism on these chicks. Because the more I deal with them, the more you see how unhinged they are. They remind me of like a very skittish dog in a corner where you want to give it a bowl of food and it's just snarling at you with its tail between its legs. And you're like, I'm just trying to give you food. And they're like, rah, 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 rah. You know? It takes time to approach these women because they are in a severe cult, a severe echo chamber. And there's lots of feminists and degenerates like Cardi B who tell them, I don't cook, I don't clean, and they're booty shaking, and they make it sound really nice because the propaganda and marketing that the feminists have done have made cooking seem as slave labor. I had a video called Is Cooking Unpaid Labor? To the point where women now think that a husband should pay the wife to cook. But also this bleeds into how women have chosen to work, and then they're still expected to come home, do chores, cook, and take care of the kids, while the husband is only expected to come home, pay some of the bills, and he gets to relax and do what he wants to do. So the modern relationships, you know, they want to be able to split the cooking piece by piece. Now, a way I would approach this is, you know, there's things that my husband cooks that I like, but I'm the main person because I cook a different cuisine better than him. Now, he'll make guacamole, ceviche, like this escabeche soup. He has things that I like, but his palate is different than mine. And I would prefer me to be in control because I'm very peculiar about what I eat. Like, I like barbecue, tangy, sweet and sour chicken. You know, I like a lot of Asian cuisine. He likes more things about spiciness, heat. I mean, he's Mexican. What are you going to do? You know? Whereas I may not want to have my mouth burn with habanero. You know, he's more of like, no, we putting in some ghost chili peppers in this bad boy. You know? So it would make sense that I do the majority of the cooking, and I know what the kids like. And I know how to make alternatives if the youngest doesn't want to eat that particular thing. It's no problem for me. Because it's like my brain has this sort of octopus nature. Like, I grab this ingredient, this ingredient, this ingredient, and I make it together, boom. You know, just the way in which our minds as women operate. We can make something out of nothing. I know how that sounds, but the kitchen is like a laboratory. And when you're in your zone, in your flow state, you're going to hook it up. You're going to throw it down in the kitchen. There's tons of great male chefs. But in the home, it's a different energy, a different pace. And so you got to motivate some of these girls because they've just eaten poorly themselves. They don't like the effort that goes into it. And they have this sort of resentment towards men as a whole. And I've heard some gold diggers say, some occultic feminists say, that the less you do for your man, when you break up, you have less attachment. And women, they can break up with a guy in 10 years still be thinking about him, even in their new marriage. Some women, they will revert to the past all the time, reminisce about the past all the time. They clock back into the present, but there will be these moments where they're lingering in the past of what they should have done, what they could have done, and that pain in their chest, that stone they carry in their stomach, can inflict pain on them at random moments whenever their brain gets triggered by a certain scent or sound or, you know, something that activates the memory. And women have searched, how do you delete, void, erase such trauma in your head, such mental baggage? And the occultists have taught the women the key is to do as little as possible for him so that you don't form a strong attachment, because the stronger the attachment, the more painful is the detachment. And cooking, because it's a love language, because cooking is connection, it's like you get satisfaction. You're like, yes, this, like when you've cooked something good and you're like, oh man, this is a banger, and you plate it and the plating's nice and people are happy about eating it, you've given them nutrition, the food is infused with love, it's just maximized good ingredients, flavor on point, the color that you've chosen, like the color coding, is phenomenal. And then to clean it up, you know, it's a long process. And when you make something for your man, this is a form of connection. It's like when men would be sitting down, break the baguette, you want some? Like, sharing food is a very key form of bonding. And food, the dinner table, is the meeting of minds. That's why dignitaries would eat. You would try something. I watched a video, you know, where Putin's with Xi Jinping of China, he's meeting, what's that leader's name of Turkey again? I forgot his name just suddenly. But, you know, the leaders eat together, or he's meeting with Obama, they're eating, they're sharing food. There's something about talking with food, having a feast, that ignites us, tracks back to our more primitive, primal times where there's the bonfire, you're sitting around, children are playing, your wife is there, your family's there, there's food. It's a connector. It's a memory. And then, if you think back to Thanksgiving, for those of us who are born in America, if you had someone in the family who actually knew how to throw it down, who could just whip up a buffet of flavor, you're just like, wow, this is amazing. You get excited, there's laughter, there's joy. Hey, pass me the salt, pass me the mashed potatoes, I need more gravy. You know, it's movement, it's life, food, connection, communication. It's wonderful. So, the fact that so many younger women have chosen to eat out, have chosen to depend on others for their meal preparation, it shows that there's a larger disconnect from what food is. And there's a lot of divided families. Husband works this schedule, kids are at baseball practice, or they're here, they're there, no one comes over anymore. So food becomes less important. And remember, the advent of fast food is to the drive-thru, eat in your car and go. See? Mom's driving, she tosses back the Happy Meal, kids are making fries all over the floor, she's on her way, it's about go, 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 go. It's no longer about sit, rest, digest, enjoy. You see what I'm saying? And so the strategy of make him a sandwich, on the surface, it's like, you have to go deeper than that. If you want her to connect to her man, to feel safe to open up, to love cooking, to respect cooking, there's so much into it that you gotta tackle. And that's what I would say with the whole Candace Owens thing. Maybe I'll read the book, but I had one of her books in the past and I was not impressed. I'm not trying to say that she needs to have Shakespearean language, but when a book has too simple of English, it's just like I'm reading something that a 7th grader wrote. There's no meat in it. You read Plato, you read Aquinas, you read just something that has oomph to it. I don't know how else to verbalize it. Maybe it's because I'm a philosopher. But you get a good takeaway. Like Leo Tolstoy, Anthony Everett, Sun Tzu. He writes concise, but you get something from it. You know. Too many also of these elites. Is Candace Owens an elite? She's a lot more elite than me. They have ghostwriters. And I don't respect that. I always look for the voice. How does this person talk online? Is it coming out through the text? Can I see them in the text? Or did she simply have a rough draft, pay an editor, the editor switches everything up, inserts this, deletes that. Now what? I'm not really reading your brain. I'm reading a sort of Fox presentation. An artificial presentation. And I don't got time for the fakeness. That's why the older you go back in books, the authors were there. The modern way is bust out books and sell them. That's why I don't buy Hillary Clinton, Obama, Michelle Obama's books. Because you're not really seeing inside their heads. When someone writes, I want to see who you are. George R. Martin, he writes fiction. You can see he's a bit of a perv. And you're like, yeah, I can see this is him in this book. The better even the author, Margaret Atwood of The Handmaid's Tale, she I don't agree with her. But I can see she was authentic when writing her book. Because the author comes out in the pages. Okay? Candace Owens doesn't come across as someone who, she's there. She's there. You know? And that's really important in this day and age. I've been listening to Trump's Art of the Deal on audiobook because I don't have the budget to buy books right now. And I'm sure not gonna go to the library and ask for that book. I don't want them thinking I'm a Trumpy. And I can't annotate it if it's borrowed from the library. So I've been listening to it on audiobook, which is the next best thing. But you can tell his book has his sauciness, but it is also heavily edited, very punchy. Maybe that's just how simple-brained he is, but it's very editorialized. Editorialized. I like authenticity. The more authentic the writer, the better. But liberals have sort of erased that. They want you to be very soft, very neutral, very PC. No one's really daring anymore. And this is why so many books don't get sold. They gotta resort to punchy clickbait titles, make them a sandwich. Because they haven't built their reputation as a serious writer. So, that's why not every book should be kept. Some should put in the recycle bin, as I did with Candace Owens' book. If you go way back on my Instagram, you'll see some books I used to have that I've put in the bin. But it's fascinating. The point is, it's very important for women to take a second back and say, okay, how do you defeat feminism? What are the feminists saying? What is this underlying trauma that these women have? What is it that they can't let go? And then you could tackle down the feminists. But saying make me a sandwich, it's eye-catching, but it's very low bar. And I don't think it's the best way to inspire cooking. And it's not really the most... Like, for example, you could say, how to make a smorgasbord for your husband. Make food your husband will love. The way to your husband is through his stomach. There's old-fashioned cookbooks there, you know. They got some punchy stuff in there. You know, old grandma's generation, great-grandma's generation. You know, they had some knowledge, right? So let me know what you think. If you see where I'm coming from, or you need more clarification, all that jazz, please like, comment, and subscribe. Join the blog. Take care.